Hi, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see a lot of students here tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sydney, long time no see.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Good. Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It was nice to see your face. I was like, oh, I think I know her.
Since it's a smaller group in this breakout session, if anybody wants to turn your cameras on, just tell us your name, where you're from. That would be great.
Arlo Benjamin from Carlow University, MSW student.
Awesome.
I'm Jessica Friedrichs from Carlow University as well. Saw a lot of you last night. Thanks for being here.
My name is Celia and I'm from Gwinnett Mercy University and I'm a student.
Awesome.
I'm Israel. I'm also from Gwinnett Mercy as a BSW student.
Catherine Bonach from Carlow.
I'm Casey and I'm from Gwinnett. I'm a BSW student.
Hey. All right, someone's having a watch party there.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm David. I'm from Gwinnett Mercy also.
Hey, David.
This is Isabel Cole, Taylor Lee, and Grayson Sherer from Salve Regina.
Mhm. Good idea to have a view party. I like that. All right. Well, anyone else want to throw your name and where you're from in the chat box? Welcome, everybody. It's so good for you to be here. We are really excited from Gwinnett Mercy to share some of the ways that we had to get creative during the pandemic with continuing our global advocacy efforts on a local level from right here in Gwinnett Valley, Pennsylvania. But it also was good for us, I think, to be reminded that our ongoing global advocacy efforts must be continuous and don't always involve travel. So I have asked some of our Gwinnett Mercy students and alumni to share some examples of things that they have done with you. But before we do, we thought we would really quick do a brief just overview of what kind of global things Gwinnett does engage in, just so you guys have some context about the presentations you're going to be watching. So our global learning curriculum is embedded in everything we do. It's not just an isolated course. We do have a dedicated service learning course that involves travel to Jamaica and Mustard Seed and work with our partner in Jamaica. But we also have a lot of embedded activities throughout our curriculum. So whether it's having our partners in Grow More in Haiti come speak in a human behavior and a social environment class, or students picking an international research project or service project and presenting about it at the NASW Pennsylvania conference, or fundraising initiative that they're engaging in. We just embed a lot of that into our curriculum. And we also have units in our human behavior and the social environment course about international social work and about political advocacy, because we know we can't advocate for global human rights if we aren't engaged in policy practice. We go every year or participate virtually in the NASW Pennsylvania Conference for Legislative Advocacy Day to learn those policy practice skills. And our partners are so important to everything we do. And you're going to hear a little bit about some of those partners here today. We partner with Mustard Seed in Jamaica, Mercy Focus on Haiti and Grow More in Haiti, and Mercy Beyond Borders also in Grow More in Haiti. And every year, our in-country liaison, Alex Fifi, comes and talks to our students in human behavior and the social environment. In this picture, she gives a little lesson in Creole and talks to our students about Haitian culture. And then our students in this particular project one year were able to engage in a letter writing project with the students in the Mercy Beyond Borders Scholars Program in Grow More. A group of us went to Haiti to learn from our Haitian partners what it was they wanted and how we could support their social development models. In Grow More, and there's a robust group of in-country programs and services designed by the individuals living in the community for the individuals living in the community. And we really wanted to plug into ways that we could support those efforts. So everything that you're going to hear tonight, everything that our students engage in is requested of us, is directed by and for the communities that we serve and support. And then on the right picture, we also just really believe in cultural immersion activities. And so we had the Haitian band RAM come to campus. We've had students who have done their capstone research projects and presented at conferences on campus about ultra poverty in Haiti or about healthcare in Jamaica. So everything we do really is stemmed from what our international partners need. And the learning that takes place for our students is just invaluable. So it's, service learning in the sense that we are providing a service and support to our partners, but it is also really enriching for our students and life-changing, as I hope you'll hear from the students who are going to be presenting to you tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to them. Why don't we start? I have some questions to kind of guide the presentation. If each of you wouldn't mind saying your name and what brings you here today or where you're at in your studies.
Hi, I'm Sydney, previous Gwinnett student, graduated this past summer, and currently I'm an advanced standing student at Bryn Mawr College.
Hi, I'm Sigfredo Amaya. I'm a current student at Gwinnett Mercy University. I'm a junior. I am also the student representative for NASW Pennsylvania, and I have an interest in working in international and macro social work.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I am a junior student at Gwinnett Mercy. I'm studying social work, and I have an interest in clinical social work.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Bashir. I am a junior here at Gwinnett Mercy University, and I'm interested in studying with seniors in the social work field.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So why don't you guys start by sharing a little bit about what activities or parts of the social work curriculum have really helped you to understand global human rights?
For me, I will say a lot of the courses that we have taken at Gwinnett Mercy has definitely helped sculpt and mold my perception of international global work. For example, one of the classes I took last semester was difference in diversity, which went into a lot of intersectionality on biases, different cultures, not only in America, but how we see them in an international level. Currently, I am in a class to travel to Jamaica to Mustard Seed, and I'm sure that will definitely help with that as well.
I'm right there with Sigfredo. Definitely the classes I've taken at Gwinnett have been very helpful. And right there with him as well with the difference in diversity class that opened my mind to all the different cultures and helped me to fully understand like the rights of different people, like in different cultures and who have different cultural backgrounds.
I will echo that as well. And then also with the global studies class, we looked pretty in-depthly in global rights and did some activities on that. And also my capstone class, we refer to the Global Human Rights document. So a lot of exposure in many of the classes.
Like Sig and Danielle said, when taking a difference in diversity class, one thing I liked about that class is how they taught us how to use what we're trained, what we're learning, and how to approach every individual differently, because not everyone has the same interests or everyone has the same perspectives. And then when I first joined Gwinnett, the first few classes, they were already teaching about micro to macro level social work, how they differ, how they connect. And I really liked stuff like last year where we met up nationally with students all around America and the country. Stuff like that to me is like even is the best experience for experiencing macro level social work.
Awesome. So the next question is, how have some of those global human rights activities shaped or influenced your social work identity?
For me, I feel like those activities, they're just more about establishing your identity. I feel like they're about establishing your identity among the community and society, because to be a social worker so far, I feel like it's not just about an individual, it's also about you putting yourself in a perspective of others and in a perspective of a community. You have to feel like you're a president or a mayor or a governor of your own community, and to understand that community, you have to act like you're a citizen of that community. You have to understand what everybody else is doing financially, economically, just everything.
Mhm.
I think for me, it helped strengthen a global lens, which I think is important for social work. Typically, in the past, I would be aware of community problems and individual problems, but I think that thinking on a global scale, it's important when working on a macro level, but also on a clinical level, you have a different perspective to understand maybe where people come from and their experience within the realm of the global sense.
Mhm.
For me, I'd say that the classes that I've taken have definitely like opened my eyes to the world outside and given me a different view on different people's identities and cultures. I think that's so important when going into social work, because if you don't open your eyes to everybody, you won't have a good understanding of everybody you're working with.
Mhm.
Yeah, like everyone has said, I think our classes and what is offered has definitely helped provide different lenses and views to other communities, cultures, and groups. And I think that's definitely helped push me towards that, wanting to work on the international and macro level. I'm sure everyone here was in the previous presentation, but it was like what was said, what we do on an everyday basis definitely impacts everyone in our community and so forth into our country, into a global standpoint. So I find a lot of interest in that. I think our time at Gwinnett has definitely helped, push that along for us.
Awesome, great. So you each have engaged in a project. Either some of you chose to do a project or some of you chose to take the global health elective that we offer. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to each highlight your project so that the participants can see a little bit about one of the activities you engaged in. Who would like to go first?
I can go.
Okay.
I'm just going to share my screen. So I did a project with 3 of the nursing students who were in my class, the global class. And our project was de-escalating aggressive or violent patients. This was geared towards the mustard seed community in Jamaica. The main thing that I focused on in the project was the triggering phase of aggression. And the people who worked at Mustard Seed had mentioned that some of the individuals there are nonverbal. So I wanted to come up with some ways that we could work with that with de-escalating. So I brought to them a risk assessment protocol, which basically means that they start documenting when someone is starting to get stressed and looking for patterns when that's happening, so that other staff who are there at different times can become aware of what is a trigger for a certain individual if they're not able to vocalize that. And then I also focused on the zones of regulation to help with some of the individuals there to appropriately regulate their emotions. And this is just an easy way to check in on how someone is feeling. It's pretty simple too, because it's color coded and there's emotions shown on that. So they can point to it or say how they're feeling. But I introduced them to this and expressed that asking the individuals how they're feeling frequently throughout the day can help them to start recognizing these things, which will also help them to control their anger a little bit more so it doesn't get to the point of full-blown aggression. So that was mainly my portion of that project.
So now, because we couldn't travel due to the pandemic, do you want to explain a little bit about how we still partnered with Mustard Seed in carrying out the project they picked for you?
Yeah, so we had a Zoom meeting with them and they just kind of expressed what they were looking for. And then we went off and did our own research to provide them with something. And then once we had that, we presented that to them in video format.
Good, great. Who wants to share their project next?
I can go.
Okay.
So I have to share my screen. So last year in our human behavioral and social environment course that we took, Jason and I had worked with Mercy Focus on Haiti to collect pillowcases through the pillowcase drive done at Gwen and Mercy. This is the poster that we will be presenting this Sunday as well. So in Haiti, the families were given like plastic bags to carry groceries home and do things like that. The idea of the pillowcase drive is to collect used pillowcases to send over to Haiti. They're used to support the food distribution in Haiti. With the idea of the pillowcases, it stops polluting the environment over there and will also allows cleaner water for those in Haiti. The total that our university had collected were 629 pillowcases. We also did share a flyer over here and gave it to different people to kind of spread awareness of Mercy Focus on Haiti as well to help collect more pillowcases.
Great, thanks, Danielle. Jason, do you want to add anything to that since you were part of that project?
Sure, I'd like to add some few things. When we were involved in that project, making it, one thing about it was like we talked with someone, their name was Andy. Hopefully you guys will meet her one day. Miss Inez would probably love to introduce her to you guys. But one thing about the project is while we were working on it, we were learning with Andy about like the problems of Haiti and how we approach it. But most importantly, we were working with Believe. She's the leader of Mercy Focus on Haiti. We were learning about what they do, the activities they do, and what's great about them was like they weren't just one singular movement powered by like one organizations. We were taught like how many people were contributing and how Gwyneth, as you guys heard from Danielle, we did a pillowcase drive. Me and Danielle personally contributed pillowcases to that drive. And more importantly about the Haiti project, we had to do research and all that stuff like everybody else does. But what made it so important is how we had to inform ourselves of the problems of Haiti. And as you guys can see, like in recent times, how Haiti still continues with long problems and how the government has to address it and stuff. But I think what I liked most about that project is I think that was one of the times so far here in college where I got to step in more internationally as a social worker. Like I got to help beyond America. I felt like what it felt to be a macro level social worker working on that project.
Awesome, thanks, Jason. And such a great point too about, you know, these projects aren't in isolation. They're really rooted in learning from our international partners about culture and in Jamaica. It's about learning about what are the healthcare needs. It's a global health course. So what are the health issues that present the Jamaican population and the population specifically in Mustard Seed? And for Mercy Focus on Haiti, as Jason mentioned, there's a ton of education about the infrastructure in Gros Morne. And this is just one small piece of the puzzle. And it's also part of a university-wide commitment that we have to our partner organizations And these are just some examples of ways that social work is plugging into that overall long-term partnership. And Sigfredo has kind of a different perspective. As the BSW student rep for the National Association of Social Workers Pennsylvania, I felt like his voice here was also really relevant because part of this presentation is about the idea that we don't have to travel overseas to engage in global advocacy. So I asked Sig to maybe highlight some ways that you guys can get involved.
Yeah, so like was just said, I did not have a project, but my current project right now as the NASW student rep is creating a student roundtable, which I encourage everyone to join. What it is that we get together just as students and we talk about our roles as students, but what's going on, what our goals are for the future. And I highly encourage for everyone to join this. And I know it could be very difficult to step out of your comfort zone. I know it was very difficult for me, but as a social worker, not only is your education important, but your connection and growing as a person and growing your self-awareness and confidence is definitely going to help, change your community, change, your global work, if that's what you're interested in. So another thing that we do with NASW, which I'm sure a lot of people know, is the conference, which is actually this Sunday. I'm sure I'll see people around. It's a great way to learn about different subjects and different topics. And again, build connections. And another important thing that we do at NASW is our legislation day, which I believe this year we're actually aiming to actually do in person, which is great because of COVID. That's been postponed for I think the past 2 years. And what that is that we take the time and we go as a group and we talk to our legislators here in Pennsylvania and let them know what's going on, how we feel that Pennsylvania could change in a better way. And again, it's a great way to get to know your future social workers, people that you're going to work with, and build stronger connections and build confidence as a social worker.
Awesome, great, thanks, Sig. So I have a couple other questions, but I think the presenters would probably rather hear from the audience. Here are some of your questions, either about their projects or about the global human rights curriculum at Gwynedd Mercy, or their thoughts about what they're going to do with this global lens and social work that they have learned about. What questions does the audience have? Everyone's eating their dinners behind the screen. Just to highlight a couple other projects maybe that other students at Gwynedd have been able to do. We had 2 alumni now who participated in a clean water initiative to raise money to purchase a Chateau d'eau, which is house of water, a water tower for the roof of a home of a family, several families actually, at the top of the mountain, who were having to hike all the way down to the river, and the water in the river was also polluted. So the Chateau d'eau retains safe drinking water. So they did a research project about safe drinking water and cholera, and how to treat the water, and also supported the community with the funds to purchase the water tower. And we had yesterday, you might have heard some other students talk about trauma-informed care training for the mustard seed caregivers in Jamaica, because of the mom and baby program that they have, where a lot of the mothers have been victims of trauma. So just a few other examples of projects that students have been able to work on.
Hi, I have a question. I was eating my dinner. That's exactly why I didn't want to be eating my soup while I was talking to y'all. But thank you all so much for sharing. I'm a professor at Carlow University and part of this collaborative. And one of the things that I keep asking Janice is like, how do you get your students involved in the global? Because if anyone went to my presentation last night, I used to do a lot of global work, but at Carlo, I found that, and maybe some Carlo students who are here can chime in, it's been really hard to for students to be able to take even before COVID to go global due to like other commitments in their lives and everything from work commitments to family commitments. So I just wanted to hear from the students, any thoughts you have on how we could make this easier and more accessible for our students.
I had an idea that just popped into my head, was maybe like planning a trip during the school spring break. So it's far enough in advance, students can take off work, but also they don't have school obligations and it's kind of built into the schedule.
Thanks,
I would
Sydney.
say definitely bring in different guest speakers. Like mentioned before, the speaker our last conference, the last meeting was fantastic and brought a different perspective that I personally have never heard, but definitely piqued my interest. And I think when it comes to that, it starts with getting students to be curious in different fields in different areas. So as much as wanting to travel is great, it's expensive. So I think easier way is being able to bring different speakers from different parts of the world and hearing their perspective and their views from their upbringing or from their community. And I think that would sort of get the ball rolling for a lot of our students.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's been, I think that I'd be interested as all of you doing this mix. Now, some of you, had the chance to kind of connect virtually, internationally, but then it sounds like may still get a chance to actually go internationally. And so I'll be interested to hear about the different experience you have in those contexts, because one thing that I know from Amazaji is when COVID hit, they started doing these global virtual experiences, and they found students saying they were getting a lot out of them. So having, people come on and meet with people in Bolivia and, hear directly from them. And it's, in a way, the virtual has made it more accessible to people for sure. So I really appreciate that comment, Sigfrido. And even this conference, I think, has been more accessible because of the virtual. So, there's no substitution for real life. There just isn't, we all know that after being trapped in our houses for these last, but I think, there's something to think about, maybe a mixture of where we can make it more accessible, using the virtual tools or guest speakers, or just trying to make those connections to other countries. Like now we can hopefully do some of that really directly.
Yeah, absolutely. Even this conference, some of us were joking around that when we wrote the grant 3 years ago, we envisioned this conference being on site at Gwynedd. And because of the budget limitations, each university might only have been able to bring 3 or 4 students, which is going to be a small group of like 20 of us. Well, now look at this, 97, 98 students, I think, from Mercy schools across the country are here with us. So that's exciting.
And I will say, just to go off Jessica's comment, was that I think the only really good things that came out of coronavirus was our accessibility to one another virtually in the safety of our own home. And I think a lot of students go into the social work field thinking of a clinical social work, counseling, therapy, things that are, or what we're exposed to or what we're told. And I think for me personally, just through exposure and talking to others, I did not know that I could be a social worker in another country, or I could collaborate with others in other countries. And again, that's just through exposure, being able to talk to other people. So again, back to what I was saying, being able to bring speakers in is definitely a plus and could definitely pique interest for our students.
Any other audience questions?
There actually was a question in the chat box. I go ahead and read it. It was from Jenna, and she asked if you could travel to another place to do a service project for, where would it be? I can answer that first, just because I do have interest in a certain country. I would definitely choose El Salvador. I'm a first generation American. That's where both of my parents immigrated from. And El Salvador currently is going through such interesting transition. It's been a country that's been poor for the majority of time, a lot of violence. But with the new president, there's a lot of interesting change, like cryptocurrency is now the main currency in El Salvador, and just seeing how that's going to affect people is something that is very interesting to me. So El Salvador would definitely be my choice of country that I would work in.
Personally, I was in nursing school before I switched into social work, so I had always wanted to travel over to either Haiti or Africa when I was in nursing school. It was just always an interest to me, but now being in social work, it's like even more of an interest, and I definitely at some point want to go over and help people over there some way. So yeah.
I would like to go to Africa also. That would be my response.
For me, I feel like honestly, I would like to go anywhere that gathers interest in me because I'm diverse. I just don't like to be selective too much. I like to see where this place needs help, where that place needs help, and I'll probably go where I find the most interest in. But at the same time, I'm the type of person where I change my mind so quickly because I'm just that curious to see whatever fields can I dive in. So I'd probably go anywhere.
It's a healthy curiosity. That's good. Well, I just had one concluding question that maybe is a good note for us to end on. If you want to just each go around and talk a little bit about how you think a global perspective or the global perspective that you have learned through your social work education will influence your future career as a social worker.
I would say that for me, I think being exposed to these different courses that focus on either global or international social work definitely helps me even on the micro level, just because if I were to go into counseling or therapy in an area like Philadelphia, which is very culturally diverse, it's very important to understand, you know, their upbringing, their culture, what they're going to bring to me, and me being able to adapt to the person themselves when it comes to those counseling sessions. So I think the global perspective definitely helps us with being able to sort of, work a way around others in our community, which is very important.
I think it will help me be aware of larger social problems and allow me to address that through like advocacy. Even though I am a clinical social worker, I still want to be engaged in that macro piece and that global piece. And also, I think social work is such a broad field that I won't count out that one day I would travel abroad and do social work there. So I think it's just helpful all around for a healthy perspective for all humans, and also for the possibilities that exist as social workers in terms of career choices.
I think the global perspective would be just great in general for establishing equity and equality for everyone, like across the country and the world. I think that the global perspective will, help me as a person connect better to the world, and the world maybe connect to me, or just, I feel like it's all just about seeing the perspectives of everyone.
For myself, going into clinical social work, I want to work in a psychiatric setting. So I feel like different cultures have different beliefs and ideas on what psychiatric care is like. So I feel like knowing and being eye-opening to all the different cultures and beliefs and identities, that it's very helpful in understanding where other people are coming from. And it's just so important to keep an open mind and understand where other people are coming from.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Because we really talk so much in our reflection and our classes about how a global perspective, once you look through the lens of global human rights, you can't turn a blind eye to social problems in your professional life or in your personal life. It changes your shopping habits even, we talked about. It changes our styles of interacting with people. And I think you all touched on too, it opens your mind and makes you culturally humble and curious to learn about the experience of our clients and to understand, the human rights violations that have resulted in a lot of the social problems that we're going to be facing in our careers. So I'm excited to see you emerging global citizens. We all are constantly, I think, growing and evolving as global citizens. So I hope the journey continues for all of you. I know those of you who still are in the program have another year of this, but is there anyone else in the audience, our last 2 or 3 minutes, has a final question or comment?
Hi, Janice, it's Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Maria's a professor at Gwinnett.
Hi. As I've been listening to everyone and thinking about, since I teach in the social work policy class, and I teach sociology too, I wondered whether the students who were participating in the global perspective actually are more in tune with the current events that are happening around the world. Because I find that a lot of people just aren't in tune with everyday news and what is really happening around them. And I just wondered if that makes is more intuitive for the students that are in that program. And anyone?
I will say before I answer that question, I did put my email in the chat. Reach out to me if anyone wants to be a part of the student roundtable. If you go to the NASW conference, you'll hear about it. Just email me with your information and I'll get you connected. But to answer that question, I do believe I'm more in tune. I think watching the news and learning about what's going on in different places is definitely a drive for me. Recently what's happened with Afghanistan and how Philadelphia has taken in so many refugees. I think that is such a motivator for me to want to be out in the community, whether it's in another country or here in our own backyard, to want to go out and help in some kind of way. So I'm definitely more in tune with the news because of my international and global interest.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, I want to be mindful of the time to give you guys a 10-minute break before the last breakout session, which begins in 10 minutes at 6:50. So join me in giving me a round of applause to our speakers.
Yay!
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you all being willing to share
Thanks,
your stories
everybody.
tonight. And those of you Gwinnett students in the room, make sure you sign up for your projects, because a lot of you are in some of these classes that are just launching. So thank you all. See you in the next session.
Bye. Thank you.
Great. Nice job, Sydney. Nice job, Sig. You guys did awesome. And
Thanks,
it's so good
I
to
tried
see
my
you again.
best.
You did
Yeah, it was so
awesome.
nice seeing you. I'll definitely, I'll get your email and I'll definitely reach out to you about Brick more.
Yeah, sounds good.
I am dying to catch up with you, Sydney, but I have to go into the next session. So can
I
we
know, so do I.
get that lunch scheduled that we've been talking about? Let's get
Yep.
together. All
Okay.
right, miss you. And thank
Yep,
you,
miss
Sig,
you
for
too.
all your help.
Bye.
I'll see you in the next one, Sig. Oh, he left. He's going to a different one.